Hey everybody, welcome to the Shreveport-Bossier Local Lens Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Sutton. I'm here at the Bridge for Dementia and Alzheimer's.
Yes.
With Laura Gauche.
Yes, Gauche.
And we're going to be talking about the Bridge Center, all the great things y'all do here. So I'm going to let you tell all the things that you do.
All right.
Because it's a lot.
Yeah, so my official title, I'm the Assistant Executive Director and then the Adult Day Center Administrator. So I am over all the programs and things that we do, from education to outreach to our adult day center. So a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, tell everybody what y'all do here at the Bridge, because I mean, I've known about y'all recently. I know you and I met a couple of weeks ago or a week ago, but I had multiple people say, hey, you need to reach out to the Bridge. They're doing some cool things, and I had no idea what it was. So just kind of tell us what y'all do and what your mission is here.
Yeah, so one of our caregivers actually told us we're the best kept secret in Shreveport-Bossier.
Okay, I believe it.
Okay, so we are a resource center that helps families diagnosed with Alzheimer's and the other dementias find resources, education, and support throughout this journey, because it's a really lonely and long journey. It can average anywhere from like 5 to 7 to 12 to 15 years. So it's a long journey, it's a marathon, and we want to be able there to support them throughout the process. So we have support groups that are all over. We have, I believe, 14 support groups now, all over in Region 7. So we cover from Caddo over to Claiborne and Bienville down to Sabine and Natchitoches.
Oh wow, that's a big area.
Yes, all of Region 7, all 9 parishes. So we have the support groups. We have counselors on staff, so we have the mental health counselors that are able to do the counseling for the caregivers, but also for the people with dementia, and help them kind of process through what's going on in their lives and the changes in their lives. We have our adult day center, which is a lot of fun. We have it 3 days a week. We also do outreach, and education is our big thing. We want to educate the community on who we are and what we do, and how to interact and talk and work with people with dementia.
Yeah, I love that. So my wife's grandfather had Alzheimer's for I think 16 years. Long time.
Yeah.
And did really well until the last few. But I mean, it's such a, I don't want to say burden. It just hurts.
Yeah, it's mentally exhausting. It's sometimes physically exhausting, and you know, you're a couple. So say you're husband and wife, you do everything together. Husband does this, wife does this, and it's a partnership. And all of a sudden, you know, one spouse gets dementia, and now you have to take on everything from doctor's appointments to lawn to house to cooking, cleaning, everything. And that's emotionally exhausting for someone to take on everything. And this is not a one-person caregiver journey. You have to have a village. You have to have people there, because that caregiver needs a break. You know, 40% of caregivers of people with dementia will actually die before their person. Wow. Because they don't take care of themselves. They get put on the back burner, and they get stressed and blood pressure issues, blood sugar issues. They don't take care of themselves. They don't go to the doctor. And then they actually die before their person. I believe.
I mean, I've seen it so many times as a PT, you know, and it's not funny, but I always wonder, especially with a husband and wife, you know, and I'll see, like, I remember I had this guy who had a stroke, and I had known him and his wife before he had the stroke. And then he had a very debilitating stroke, and then she was so sick of dealing with him. And I remember thinking, like, I wonder how he was to her, right? Like, because we don't know how, like, maybe he treated her bad all her life or whatever. I don't know, but it's when we were in PT school, we had an OT who had been an OT for 40 years teach us our gerontology class, and she said one of the worst things you can do for your spouse is be their caregiver at some point, right? Because it changes your relationship.
Yeah.
It's no longer that romantic. I mean, you know, there's other love in a relationship other than romance, but like now it's like you're caring for them.
Yeah, you turn from their spouse to their parent.
Yeah.
And that's a hard way to navigate. And some people do get resentful towards their people with dementia, and that's one of our goals, is to get to them early enough to where they have a sounding board, they have someone to talk to, and then they can release some of that resentment or that frustration and things. And then we can also identify with them, like, look, these are the things that I'm seeing. I think it may be time to have somebody come in, you to get a break. Something needs to change, because this is not a good path that you're going down. Because if you're not any good, then you're not going to be any good to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've got to have help. Whether if it's small or whatnot, you got to have at least 1 to 2 other people to help.
And I think that's what you bring up a good point is like, hey, we're here to say, hey, no, this is a road we don't want to go down. Or now it's time to go get a sitter or somebody else to come in, because if you haven't been educated in that, you don't know.
Exactly.
So, I mean, one, you don't know what there is out there available. You know, and two, you just don't know when it's time. So a resource like this in Shreveport is such a huge issue, or such a huge benefit to the community.
Well, and it is true that we want to be able to literally walk with them through this journey, because I have some people, like I started almost 4 years ago, and I still have people that I started with that I'm still walking through this journey with them, with their spouse or their parent or whatnot, and they'll call me and like, okay, this is going on. What do I do? Is this normal? Is this not normal? How do I cope with this? How do I deal with this? And what are the ways to navigate this? You know, and the best way is to just come and sit down and have a conversation, and let's just talk, get it all out, and then we can help you navigate. We're not going to tell you what to do, but we're going to give you your options and give you your best ways for you to be, you know, a good caregiver, but also to take care of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, and we've already talked about that. You did. It's so important to take care of yourself, because, like I said, 40% die before their person.
Right.
But I mean, if you're having to lift somebody all the time because now they don't know when to get up or how to get up anymore. I mean, it's so easy to get injured.
gosh.
And then who's going to take care of both of you, right?
Right, and if they fall, you can't pick them up. Even 100 pounds of dead weight is really heavy.
Yeah.
And so then you're having to call ambulance and EMTs to get them up off the floor. And I know they're happy to do it, but you shouldn't have to do that. Like there's other things, there's other ways, and it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
It's okay to bring in a sitter or to look at facilities. No one wants to put their person in a facility because then you no longer have that control. But it's okay to ask for help, because when you have that help, you then go from being their caregiver back to their spouse, back to their kid, and that relationship gets better.
Sure.
And I mean, that is the main thing. We don't want you to have any regrets. We don't want you to have any resentment towards your person, and having them really just love you and be excited to see you, because they may not remember your face, or they may not remember your name. They're going to remember your face and the emotional truth that comes with that.
Yeah.
Because if you've broken that trust, or you're angry or frustration, they remember that, because emotions hold deeper than your name. That they will remember that forever.
I believe that. Yeah, I mean, so I'm thinking about this person that I saw home health who had Parkinson's, but also really bad dementia.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember it was kind of like what you said, like the husband and wife, they had both retired, and the wife's like, she's ready to go on cruises and all this stuff, but then the husband gets this dementia and can't walk, and like there's so much resentment. And then we spent, the OT, the nurses, all the time like educating, hey, this is not his fault.
Right.
He doesn't want to do this. He doesn't know. He doesn't mean to freeze at the doorway. That's the Parkinson's, right? And then he doesn't mean to go to the bathroom in the bed. Like he forgot. He didn't, all this stuff.
Yeah, he has no control over it.
He's not controlling this. And she's thinking, and I'm not bashing her because I know it's hard.
Right.
But she's like, he's doing this on purpose. He doesn't do this when y'all are here. I've heard that so many times. You probably heard that too. Like, he doesn't do this when you're here. I'm like, well,
They do all these activities with y'all, but they won't do it at home.
Yeah.
I hear that all the time. But I mean, and that is the truth, because they are going to act out, and they're going to push the buttons of their caregiver, because they know that caregiver's not going to leave. That is their safe space, and that is their person. And they're going to be on their P's and Q's when they go out in public, when they go to the doctor, when they go to the grocery store. But they know they can be their truest self and no judgment when they're at home. So, I mean, it's a form of a compliment, but it's also a very stressful situation to have that going on.
Right, I mean, that's all of us, right?
Absolutely.
We're our 100% self at home.
Yes.
Sitting in our favorite chair, whatever we're doing. Nobody gets treated worse than family.
Right.
You're not gonna talk to your boss like you talk to your spouse, probably.
Lord, no. We hope not.
We hope not. So, what do you think? What does it kind of go through? What do people go through when their person gets dementia? Is it like do they kind of go through the phases of grief? Is it what's that realization, and what do y'all kind of help them get through?
I mean, there's obviously that denial period for both parties. Very rarely do both parties have like agreement and acceptance at the very beginning, because you don't want your person to have this. It's a disease that can't be fixed, and you're slowly watching them die and lose those things throughout the process. So there is an actual term, it's called ambiguous loss. They are grieving the things that they're losing throughout this disease. So whether it's intelligent conversations, the ability to go out and do things, to go to parties, socialize, the caregiver is grieving those things as their person is losing them. And then at the end, when they die, they grieve all over again. But then they don't really grieve fully because they've grieved things throughout the process, and then they feel guilty because they haven't grieved like they think they should have grieved. But what people have to remember is dementia grief is very different than quote unquote normal grief or run-of-the-mill grief of someone, tragically passing away, or a heart attack and passing away, or cancer or things like that. It's a very different type of grief. And that's why we actually do a grief support group here.
Okay.
Because it's very specific.
So what's the difference? Or how do y'all explain that to people?
So we explain it because they're losing things throughout the process, and they're losing the ability to do those things and have those conversations. And so we help them throughout that process of, that's why we do the counseling, so they can grieve and process through what's going on. So when they get to that point of losing their person at the very end, that they understand that they're grieving, but they have grieved throughout the process. So their grief may not be as long as what people think. And we still actually have a lot of people that go to our caregiver support groups that have lost their person, because now they can help somebody else that's going through the same situation. So, and it actually helps them process and deal with their grief as well.
Yeah. So I see you're saying they've been grieving, so then it may not be a 6-month-long grief process.
Right.
It's like almost, I don't want to say relief, but
it is a relief, because their person isn't suffering anymore. Right. They're not hurting anymore. Yeah. They're not, they can't go to the bathroom by themselves anymore. They're not having to worry about that. So it is a relief that their person isn't suffering. Yeah. Then they have that caregiver guilt of, well, now I feel a relief because my person has died. And that's not it.
Sure.
So we help them work through that and process through that's okay, that's normal, and it is a bit of relief, but a little bit of grief. I mean, it gives and takes.
Yeah. I mean, if you've been holding something over your head for 20 days, like when you finally drop it, you're like, oh,
exactly.
Feels good. And then I know that's kind of what it's like taking care of people with dementia and Alzheimer's, because it's just a lot of times it feels like a fight.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why we started the day center, is because there's no other a day center that is specifically Alzheimer's and dementia specific. So we knew that our caregivers needed a break. And, everybody comes once a week, but I have seen the color and the joy come back in our caregivers' faces and their eyes, because they're getting that scheduled, proactive respite once a week. Just 6 hours once a week. And it has seen a tremendous amount. And then it's twofold, because their person gets to come and socialize and do activities and have fun and be with people that they wouldn't normally get to be with. And I've seen increase in abilities in some of my people because they're socializing.
Right.
Because socializing is such an important part of the brain, no matter if you have dementia or not. You have to socialize. You can't self-isolate. And we have seen so much growth in a lot of our people because of that.
Yeah. I've had so many home health patients over the years where they didn't want to go to a nursing home or rehab. And I just remember thinking, you would be so much happier because they are starved for attention.
Right.
Like as the PT, a lot of times I may be the only person they're seeing, more than 5 minutes a week. Or that may be the only interaction they have.
Mm-hmm.
And I had one lady that was 102, and I was
gosh.
And she had the best story. She was a can dancer in the 20s. She drove a train in Houston. She was a physical therapy technician at Doctor's Hospital years ago.
Oh my gosh.
She had the greatest stories. And I was like, you would love it because she just wanted to talk to people.
Yeah.
But she didn't have anybody to talk to, and so I was like, I don't want to go. I was like, you'd love it,
And they do activities, they do things. There's always something to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we always think that's the worst thing to send mom or dad
They think it's a death sentence.
It's a death sentence, right? But it's not. If you're alone, 95% of the time, it's like the greatest thing ever.
Yes.
For most people. So let's talk about this a little bit. So I know I've talked to a lot of people like, hey, I want to see where you stand on this. So a lot of times when I'll see a spouse or a child with their loved one who has dementia, they'll say, Susie's coming later. Like, Susie's died 30 years ago. And they just argue and argue. And
right.
So I tell them not to argue. I don't know what y'all do. What do y'all do?
It's arguments like arguing with a brick wall.
Yes.
Because what people have to remember is mine and yours reality is no longer their reality.
Right.
Their perception could be 35 years ago. Our perception is right now in the present. So you trying to reorient them to the present and tell them that they've died or it's 2026 and they think it's 1985, it's not going to do any good. We have to meet them where they are. We have to change for the time that they are in there. Then they will come back to present. But we always tell people, like, if they said, well, Susie will be here, in 20 minutes, and go, that is so interesting. What did you like to do with Susie? What was your favorite thing to do? What did y'all go out? Did y'all have fun at home? Like, what did you do? And that helps them process through that memory because something is triggering them to talk about Susie.
Right.
So processing through that memory and what's happening, and then will then get them off that. And then you're like, man, I'm thirsty. Are you thirsty? Let's go get something to drink. And they're like, okay.
Yeah.
And most of the time they'll be off that kind of hamster wheel.
Yeah.
And arguing does nothing. Because it frustrates you, and 10, 15, 30 minutes later, they have forgotten, and they're wondering why the heck you're still mad.
That's right.
Like, what are you mad about?
Now we're going to have the same conversation.
Exactly.
You're about to get mad again.
So there's no point in it. You have to, they say go with the flow.
Yeah.
But you have to meet them where they are, and if they say the sky is green, you're like, I did not know that.
Yeah.
That is super interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I had the same conversation with one lady 10 times every time I saw her.
Yeah.
How's your day going? Great. 5 minutes later, how's your day going? Great.
Yeah. I mean, they're on a loop.
What? It doesn't matter.
And that's the thing, like our day center, they're like, well, they're going to tell you the same thing 1,200 times. That's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all trained. That's what this is what our career is. This is what we want to do.
Right.
And so if they tell us the same story every single time, that's okay. I have a gentleman, he tells me where he was born every single time he comes in. And I act like it's the first time he's ever told me.
Yeah. Yeah, one of my ladies was from Reedheimer. I don't know if you know where that is.
No idea.
So Celine over that. Anyway, you
probably know. Yep, I do know that.
Celine. Anyway, she's like, do you know where Reedheimer is? Yes, ma'am. I saw her for 3 years, off and on, her and her husband both. And every time we had that same conversation about Reedheimer. And it was funny, and her daughter would come in and we would talk about it. She's like, do you know my mom's from Reedheimer? I was like, yeah, I know. Trust me, I know. But it doesn't do any good to argue, and it doesn't do any good to correct. One of my dad's mom is in a rehab in Arcadia, and she has bad dementia, and she thinks that my dad and his brother are teenagers.
Yeah.
And so every time we go, she talks about them as teenagers. And then in a little while, like one day she said, I have 2 white Cadillacs, because she used to love Cadillacs, and back in the 80s and 90s. And she's like, Bobby, my dad, who has passed away, is working on them right now. He's going to fix them both and bring them back to me. I'm like, that's great. I'm glad he's working on them, And we just have this conversation. And initially it did bother me, right? Because my dad's gone.
Right.
And she's confused.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, what does it matter? Like, it's just going to upset her and me if we go through all this.
Right. Because, and that's what I said earlier, you trying to reorient them and tell them that they're wrong is going to break that trust, and then they're going to remember that. Yeah. And then your conversations are going to be very different from now on.
Yeah.
So in the big scheme of things, does it really matter if they think that the sky is green?
It doesn't.
I had a gentleman tell me he landed the plane on the Hudson River. And I was like, that is amazing. So awesome.
Yeah.
And his wife's in the back going, no. I'm like, I know.
Yeah, sure.
Right. But does it really matter? No.
Yeah.
He believes it, and I'm going to validate that he believes it's real.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what I think.
No.
He believes it, so I'm going to validate that.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He's not going to remember it, too.
No.
I love that. So how do people, what's the process for getting your loved ones here to the, the day center?
Day center. So on our website, there is an application. They fill out the application, then drop it off at our office at 851 Olive. We do an interview, and then it gets sent to our admission denial committee, and then they make the final decision.
Gotcha.
The main 2 requirements are they have to be able to go to the restroom unassisted and eat with little to no assistance, because we're a social model through the state of Louisiana. Yeah. So for our license, we can't do medicines, we can't do, we can walk into the bathroom, that's about it.
Good.
But for the resource center side, so like for the counseling and support groups, they just call us and say they want to come in.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. You know, our goal is for every person in our region to know about us so that we can then help them through that process. Because for every one person diagnosed, 3 people are affected. So, which is a minimum.
At least.
Yeah, a minimum of 3 people. Yeah. So, and the best thing is that all of our services are free.
That was my next question.
Yeah, they're completely free, including the day center currently.
Wow.
It is completely free. So we know how expensive this disease is. We know what the burden that it's going to carry, and so we're able to offset those costs with grants that we apply for, and then private donations, fundraisers, things like that we can offset those costs.
That's amazing, and you know this, and I see it all the time. Is it's expensive to have 24/7 care.
Oh my gosh!
Not only is it expensive, it's hard to, just like anything, it's hard to find people that are dependable.
Yeah.
To come and that you trust to stay with your person.
Exactly, that you trust to be in your house.
Yes.
And even a facility, they're astronomical too.
Yeah.
Unless you have long-term care insurance, which long-term care insurance is just as, if not more expensive.
So it's
a catch-22.
It really is. It's hard, and you know. So I have another lady. I have so many examples of this because I've been PT for 900 years. But one of them, when we had this ice storm, you know, however many months ago it was, and she was at home with her husband all weekend by herself. And he's taller than me. He's probably 6'2", probably 175, and she's not 6'2", 175. You
right.
know? And like she didn't get any help all week because nobody could get there.
Right.
And I was like, well, you should have called me. And she's like, well, you know, but it's hard, like, because you need people to help. And so what you're doing, like you said, 6 hours a week.
Yeah.
Is huge.
It is, and I mean, and this is not for every person, and it's not going to fit everybody. And even if someone is accepted, this is for a period of time. We don't know how long that period is. I mean, our first client that we had when we started a year ago, he's still here. But I've had people discharge that have been here shorter. So it just depends on that person and their disease progression. But we want to be able to help the families for as much as we can while they're with us.
Yeah, that 6 hours is I know this for a fact, and you do too. That's keeping people from like losing their minds. Yes. Like running away, you know.
Because 4 hours really isn't enough. Because especially if you have to go to the doctor or do things, and that's the minimum for when you hire a sitter. It's minimum 4 hours. So 6 hours is like that perfect window of you get a break. If you want to go do something or go to a doctor's appointment, you still have time to do things for yourself during that time.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. It's a phenomenal service, and like I said, it's not known very well.
No, I mean, we've only been open a year.
Yeah.
And we have currently 23 people.
That's amazing.
That come once a week. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And so it's 3 days a week. What days are y'all here?
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
But you only come once.
Yeah, everybody comes once a week.
Yeah. Like I said, it's keeping people from going crazy. I have no doubt.
Oh yeah.
Because 6 hours. I know when my kids were babies, I was like, I need an hour. But anyway.
Yeah.
So how do people find out? Is there a website?
Yeah, so website is www.alzbridge.org, or they can call our office, and that's 318-656-4800.
4800. And y'all are very accommodating, very friendly. Obviously y'all are, here, this is a mission.
Yes.
Right? This is not a job. This is a mission calling. I think, guys, look, if you need this, call them, because this is huge.
Yeah, we all of us that work and volunteer, we love what we do. We have a passion for the older adults in our community, and that's why we're here. Yeah,
and I'll say, we'll close here in a second, but I knew an OT that started a place similar to this in Monroe, and it didn't last. I don't know the circumstances. I know she moved back to Florida, but I know a ton of people have thought about starting something like this, because as rehab professionals, we all see the need for it.
Right.
Anybody in healthcare sees the need.
Absolutely.
For it. But there's just such a need, and so what y'all are doing, in next year, y'all gonna have way more than 23 people. You're gonna be like, okay, we need to knock this building down, and maybe we need to get 50 cents G'd on. We need to get in there. I don't know. But anyway, Laura, thank you so much for letting me interview you. It's been a pleasure, and I'll just love what y'all are doing.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for us being able to spread the word.